keep hearing this word patriarchy come up a lot. And I actually had Rose McGowan here last week, and she was talking about her experiences and very powerful what she did and what it was all about. But that word patriarchy was kind of something thrown out there, that it was representing everything bad about America at this male dominance piece. And I was just wondering how you view that word through the lens of, okay, what does that mean? What does that mean historically? What does that word mean to you? It's got a lot of loaded these days.
It is. It's not that recent. That certainly goes back to the second wave of feminism in the 1970s, when the word was bandied about. It's often used to mean a regime of male dominance, in particular older men, fathers. That's what patriarch originally. I think patriarch literally means ruled by a father or a male ancestor. And there's no question that there are societies where the elder male is awarded power and keeps it, such as the ones in the Old Testament. That's as patriarchal as you can get. It's used often now as a way of implying that arbitrary political structures are which keep men in power with the explicit goal of keeping men in power are the reason for all gender disparities. I think that's the way it tends to be used.
And is it valid, or do we have our checks and balances in place to what we're trying to move away from that?
It's certainly overused in the sense that it's that some in two ways. One is the one that we've been talking about, namely that the only way that you can go from absence of a 50-50 sex ratio to discrimination or use it as evidence of discrimination is if you think that the sexes are indistinguishable to begin with. And so some claims of patriarchy may try to explain facts that are really due to differences on average between the sexes in their interests and talents and life priorities. But also it tends to politicize behavior that may not be political at all, in particular rape and sexual assault and sexual harassment, which I think come from the different natures of male and female sexuality, that it's a much more powerful desire in men to have sex with a lot of partners than it is in women, and that leads to crimes such as rape and harassment and exploitation. And again, to say, as I would, that this is not part of an explicit part of the patriarchy in the sense of a system of practices and laws that are designed to keep men in power. That rape is an intimidation tactic, a way of keeping women in their place, which I think is nonsense. But the concept of patriarchy is often used to make that argument. And it's confused with, and even this conversation could lead to outrage on the part of people who want to confuse the issue of whether rape is a horrific crime which we ought to eliminate with a claim that rape is a tactic to solidify the patriarchy as opposed to a horrible byproduct of male sexuality. Because it is something of a dogma in educated circles that rape has nothing to do with sex, that rape has only to do with power. There's an idea that goes back to actually quite an excellent book by Susan Brown Miller called Against Our Will, came out in 1975, which first raised awareness of the somewhat lax treatment of rape in the culture and in the legal system. I think it was a very important book. But
not entirely true.
Well, I went back to the book and I reread it. There are just two sentences in which he mentions the theory that rape is a tactic by which all men control all women, which is crazy because it would mean that men are happy for their sisters and their daughters and their mothers and their wives and girlfriends to be raped because it helps them stay on top of women as a gender. And it also implies that even though men will pay for sex, even though men will try to persuade women to have sex, even men will do anything that they can think of to get sex, they'll never try to take it by force. That makes no sense if you just think about how human beings work.
Right.
Anything that people will want, some people will try to steal, including sex. Now, the reason that that should be controversial is that it's confused with the ideas, oh, well, you're justifying it. You're saying that men can't help it, that it's only natural, it's only part of male nature, therefore we shouldn't try to combat it. Now that makes no sense.